Today, we're going to be talking about a very important topic that will pretty much stay with you for the rest of your math journeys and for the rest of your life. And that is a ratio. And here you can see I say ratios, fractions, and percentages. These all seem like three different topics, but really they are the same idea, but we'll see them in three different ways. So first, what is a ratio? So very simply here we define ratio as a relationship between quantities. Now, it is really more than that, but just a simple way to say it, it's our way to compare two or more quantities, showing how much of one thing there is in comparison to another. So, in order to represent ratios, we actually have multiple different ways. So first, we can use a colon, and you'll see what the definition really means when we follow through with these examples. So we have 3 colon 5, and the way I would read this out loud is 3 to 5. So this shows that for every 3, there's 5. Once again, going back to the definition, we are showing how much of one thing there is in comparison to another. So for every 3, there is 5. Another way to write this ratio is we write 3 over 5 as a fraction. So we have the denominator with the numerator, and we have the fraction bar that separates the two. And last but not least, we can also write 3 to 5 in words. Very simple, just like how we pronounce this ratio over here. Now, when I say 3 to 5, it can really mean a lot of different things. And what it means here, for example, I can say 3 pigs to 5 cows, or 3 sheep to 5, bricks. 3 pencils to 5 pens. So it can be the relationship between any two things. Here, like when we say 3 to 5, it can mean that for every 3 pigs, there's 5 cows. For every 3 sheep, there's for some reason 5 bricks. For every 3 pencils, there is 5 pens. So it is a relationship between two quantities. Okay. And once again, you should probably be familiar with this by now. But if a fraction represents a part from a whole, so here, when we have this pizza slice, what I'm hinting at is kind of what you learned in the past, where like you have a pizza pie and like a fraction of the pie, maybe you got 1/8 of the pie, so that'll be one slice, so 1 over 8, so you got one slice in the 8 slices available. So the numerator and the denominator. So you'll see, we already talked about pizza as being one of the ways we use fractions. We already talked about ratios here being with pigs and cows, being with pencils and pens. I want to think about how do we use fractions in our everyday life? And beyond fractions, how do we use ratios in our everyday life? It is a good question because we use it all the time, to be honest. Like, even if we say, for example, I finished half of my homework. Well, half is a fraction. We can say a third of the pie is gone. 1/3. So we do use fractions in everyday life, and I want you to think about how you use them. Have you used them today? And last but not least, we have percentages. So percentages, when you really think about it, they are fractions out of 100. So for example, say if I wrote the fraction 45 over 100. That is 45 out of 100. If we wrote that as a ratio, it would be 45 colon 100, 45 to 100. So it is 45 out of 100. And we write this, instead of writing 45 over 100, another way we've found to express this proportion is by writing percentages. So think about this, 45 over 100 would just be 45%. So this percent almost means out of 100 in a way. It tells us it's out of 100. So for example, on a test, you got 100%. That means you got 100 of 100. You've gotten 100% of the points. 100 out of 100 is everything that's available. Say you failed the test and you got 50%. You got 50 out of 100, which simplifies to 1/2. So keep that in mind. And last but not least, here we can see percentages are used all the time. We see it's being used here for interest rates. As I mentioned before, you use it for grades, your averages, all sorts of things. So now let's move on to some practice, now that we reviewed what ratios, percentages, and fractions are. So here we're told that our friend Timothy has a barn with pigs, cows, and horses. The following is true about his farm, or about the animals at his farm, rather. He has 250 animals. That's a lot of animals. 20% of them are pigs. So if 20% of them are pigs, how many pigs do we have? Because it's not 20, because 20%, remember, is 20 out of 100. So 20 over 100. So if we have 250 pigs, that's difference. We can find that value by multiplying 250 times 20. And this is a very cool trick. So it's called cross multiplication. You multiply across like this. So 25 times 250 times 20, that is equal to 500 or 5,000 rather. And then 5,000 divided by the 100. So the number we didn't multiply initially. So 5,000 divided by 100 is equal to 50. So Timothy has 50 pigs. I'll write that right next to it. Cool. Next, we're told that 1/10 of the animals are cows. So 1/10, we can do the same exact thing. We can use what we learned about cross multiplication to find the number of pigs, or number of cows, rather. So 1 times 250 is 250, divided by 10 is 25. So our friend Tim has 25 cows. And we're told the rest are horses. So if you just do some quick maths, that means that we have 75 animals here, but we have 250 in total. So that means we have to have, give you a second. Yeah, that's right, 175 horses. 175 horses. Cool. Now that we know how many of each animal we have, now we can solve these problems a lot more easily. So first, what is the total number of pigs and cows at the farm? Interesting. So what we'll do, because we very easily converted all of these ratios and percentages and fractions into real numbers, now we can just solve. So what are the total number of pigs and cows? 50 plus 25 is equal to 75. Cool. What is the ratio of pigs to horses at the farm? So we're told we found that we have 50 pigs and 175 horses. So if I were to simplify that, I'll give you a second. Remember, think about common factors. So if I were to divide by 25, top and bottom, it'd be 2 over. Give you a second. Yep, that's right. 7. So the ratio of pigs to horses is 2 to 7. Now, one thing I want to reiterate is how important the order is in this problem. We are asked pigs to horses. That means pigs will be the first term and horses will be the second term. So 2 will always mean pigs and 7 will always mean horses. If the question asks horses to pigs, then we have to adjust. We would say 7 over 2 instead of 2 over 7. Hope that makes sense. Alright, cool. Next, if 10 cows are added to the barn, which choice represents the percentage of horses at the barn? Round to the nearest percentage. So, we are adding 10 cows to the barn. So we had 250 animals at first. We're adding 10. So now we have 260. Right? And if we add, so we don't have a change in the number of horses. So we still have 175 horses. Now it's 175 over 260, not 250, because we added more horses. Now I want to ask you a question. What does that mean about the amount of horses there are in comparison to the rest of the animals? Is the ratio of the number of horses to the number of animals now greater, less, or equal to what we had before? And it would be less than, because now that we're adding cows, that means that horses are a less part of the entire population. It was first part of the 250 animals, but now it's just part of the 260. So there are 10 more animals, and none of them are horses. Think about that for a second. Let that sit with you, because that is a very, very important thought. So 175 over 260. On some exams, you won't be allowed to use a calculator. So what I would do here is perhaps do some long division. However, for the sake of this video, we're going to use a calculator. 175 divided by 260 is equal to approximately 67%. So, choice D. Very good. And I will leave these two problems up for you all to try out. You can find this workbook and the answers and much more explanations on my website, www.teentutor.com. And yeah, that's it for this video.